Hello! So in this video I thought I'd take a look at the new version of Suez. So as you can see, there are now 5 capture points. We've got the 3 original capture points in the middle, but now we've got 2 extra capture points where the old spawns used to be, and we've got 2 spawns further out. If you've played this map on Operations, it will be familiar to you because it's a very similar layout to the Operations version. Now, there is still a big problem with this new version of Suez, which I'm going to kind of demonstrate here. Jumped into the armoured car and completely ignored the first 2 points on the map and gone straight for C. If you do this, basically we've got a full car that's arrived at C and we're versus 1 horseman, which gets taken out pretty quickly. We then capture C. The car is now moving off to go towards B, I think, at their end, and basically this is the tactic you use on Suez. Go straight for C in the fast vehicles and the horses, ignore the 2 points closest to you, and basically you can almost get a dominant stranglehold within the first 2 minutes of the game. If your teammates then spawn on C and push up at B, then basically you can end up having B, C, D and E within the first 4 or 5 minutes of the game, and the game is effectively over. Now this tactic does work best from the Ottoman Empire end of the map, so if you're playing as the British on this map you can use the same tactic, but it doesn't work as well. Holding as the British seems to be harder than holding as the Ottomans. You'll often find that when this map turns into a horrible spawn camp, it's usually the British end, so that's flag A now, that's getting camped. You don't get spawn camped anymore, but you get camped at A. Now that's because those 2 outside flags, A and E, are still pretty open. There's not a lot of cover. I've played about a dozen full rounds now on the new version of Suez to try it out, and it does really seem to favour the Ottomans, and I can't quite work out why. I'll have to play it again a lot of times from the British side to try and work out what the problem is. If you do want to play full rounds on this map, then don't try spawning onto a map that's playing Suez, because the losing side usually loses players and you end up dumped onto the losing side. What you want to look for is a server playing St. Quentin Scar, because this map follows on in the rotation, and that way you're guaranteed to get a full round of Suez. During this round is when I realised that the mechanics of the mortar have changed. If you haven't noticed, the mortar is now really inaccurate if you try firing off fast shots. You have to wait 4 or 5 seconds for the mortar to actually become accurate. You'll notice the round white disc of where the mortar is aiming will get smaller, it will concentrate to a point, and if you fire it then, it's going to be more accurate. If you fire it like I am while the circle is big, then it's going to be a lot less accurate. In fact, it's less accurate than the circle suggests. It's fine if you try to take out buildings, but if you try to take out players, you really want to wait for that circle to concentrate in. But the mortar is one of the reasons why this map becomes such a spawn camp, or now an A flag camp. Basically because the opposition are going to be out in the open in the dunes, they have almost no cover from mortars, and you're mortaring from behind buildings out of the line of fire. You can even mortar from places where you can't be counter-mortared. Now with this new layout, it is possible for players to get behind you. They can go down the flanks on horses or in the armoured transports and get onto the back flags. But a team that's got its eyes open and realises what's happening can just crush any of these back point takes. In this round here you can see that we've lost D and E, but it's so quick to take back because usually you've only got a couple of players getting back there. You might get a full car, which is going to be 5, but a single squad spawning back and realising what's happening is going to be able to deal with it. In this case we've got a heavy tank that's got behind, but because it actually takes so few players to keep hold of B and hassle anybody trying to get out of A in the open, you can actually go back, take a point back from the opposition, and then just go back into the action without ever losing B. Now if you look at the flags at the top, you'll see that we're getting pushed at B as well, but that's not really much of a problem we've taken it back pretty easily while we're still taking back D and E. So once you get into that camped position, it's really hard to get out of it. Like I say, in the rounds I've played, it's not happened to the Ottomans. It's happened to the Ottomans when we were playing on the 3-point map, but on this 5-point map it hasn't actually happened to me yet. I'm sure it does happen, but it seems far easier for the British to get camped than it does for the Ottomans to get camped. But all the advantage we've got in this map so far is simply down to fast attacking C at the start of the map. That point seems to be the dominant control point. Once you control C and you can spawn in the middle of the map, you can just dominate everything. Now of course the arrival of the train can make a difference, but the train on this map is really vulnerable. It's sat there out on the side of the map. There's nowhere for it to hide from the field guns or from the rocket guns. It just sits there and it steams backwards and forwards, or it sits all the way back in the enemy spawn area trying to get some protection. In this case, the train is going to move forward on the map and it basically just dies really quickly. Now I've jumped forward 4 minutes here and you can see I do get killed by the train while on the front, but look how much health the train has left. It's not surviving. Sure, it's lobbing in a lot of shells at where it thinks we are, but as you'll notice there's no spotting flares here. Don't know why, because there are plenty of snipers out on these dunes, but if the enemy team aren't spotting, then the train can't do any work, and basically the train is just far too vulnerable, sat out in the middle of nowhere, not really in the action. And even though I'm appearing on the minimap while using this mortar, nobody can counter mortar because we've got a ton of mortars on our side that would just take them out straight away. And the train probably has its guns disabled now, so it can't really return fire. I think the biggest problem with Suez is the fact that it's a desert map. If you look at Ardennes Forest, then that map has a very similar layout, but it has a ton of cover everywhere. The infantry can really get involved in that map without making themselves just horribly vulnerable. And none of its spawn points are open. They've all got trenches, they've all got hills, they've all got cover. Here we have the 2 outside spawn points which really just have sand dunes. The train doesn't have any options to pull back and hide because the track is completely straight and it's completely open. Now to be honest, I don't know how you fix this map. I seem to think that having this linear pattern is a good idea. I think maybe 2 of the points should be further out. So there should be a point by the railway line that's got a lot of cover that the train can actually dominate because it can't capture or dominate any of the points on the map at the moment. And maybe there should be one on the other side out in the dunes. That way the map is a bit wider and people going out wide can take points. And there should be a bit more cover on the map for those first points, so A and E need a bit more cover. But I don't know if that would fix it. Maybe A and E should have a sentry kit spawn, so if you are getting camped back you can have something a bit heavier that's going to go out and try and do some work. I picked this sentry kit up at C, which obviously the dominating team is going to hold, and it's not a very long walk to get to where you need to be. Now I could sit here in these buildings and basically just mow people down, but because it's the end of the round and there's not long left to go, I decided, right, I'm going to walk out into the dunes and get some kills. And I do clear out most of the infantry from the first set of dunes and some from the second set of dunes. And this is the kind of advantage that the team that's getting pushed back needs, not the team that's doing the pushing. You know, yes, this is a suicide charge because the round's ending, but I shouldn't be able to do this against the team that's already been camped back. I think they are the ones that should be getting the heavy hitting toys at A and at their spawn so they can try and break out. I don't think adding the armoured transport is enough. Maybe they need a sentry at both spawns and maybe a tank hunter at the flag closest to the spawns. Something has to happen that can let the defending team break out, because at the moment getting camped is far too easy. The transport and horses let you get behind your enemy, but they don't let you push through your enemy, and that's what is needed. There needs to be a way so that people who are trapped back at A can push through to B. As you can see, the score wasn't even close. We won by over 400 points, and this isn't the worst round that I was on. The worst score difference was nearly 500 points, and I think the closest game was about 200 points. As you can see, I didn't have a very good round. I don't know why it says I only captured 1 flag and defended 2, because I seem to do a lot more than that. But I did get a battle pack out of it, and we are on to Revision 5 battle packs now. They arrived with the latest patch, but unfortunately the latest patch didn't fix Suez. It made it a bit better, but not a lot. Thanks for watching.